Have you ever walked into a room full of smiles, congratulations, and friendly handshakes, but felt a strange tension underneath it all? As if behind the warm words and polite gestures, something colder was hiding. Jealousy, resentment, maybe even quiet betrayal. You just landed a promotion, or launched a successful project, or simply decided to live more fully as yourself. And yet someone, maybe more than one, seems unsettled by your progress. They smile, but their eyes don't. They praise you. But somehow you walk away feeling less safe, not more. You're not paranoid. Jealousy doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through compliments. Sometimes it hides in encouragement that feels slightly off. Sometimes it wears the face of a friend. The Stoics understood this long before we gave it a name. They saw that the real danger in life isn't just misfortune or failure. It's being surrounded by people who smile at you while hoping you fall. And so they trained their minds, not just to stay calm in adversity, but to see clearly in success, to know who's truly with you and who only claps when you're down. In this journey, you'll learn how to spot jealousy and deception, not through paranoia, but through clarity. Not by judging others, but by anchoring deeper in your own truth. We'll explore 10 timeless principles rooted in Stoic wisdom to help you recognize insincerity without bitterness, protect your peace without shutting down, and build relationships grounded in quiet strength, not empty praise. So if you've ever felt something was off but couldn't explain it, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll not only see others more clearly, you'll see yourself more powerfully than ever. Don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Unknown. There's a strange relief in silence. In the absence of noise, distractions, and polished words, people show who they really are. One of the deepest lessons from Stoic philosophy is this: truth is in action, not in speeches, not in promises, in behavior. A person can say they admire you, that they want the best for you, that they'll always be there when you need them. But the Stoics would ask, do their actions align with those words? That's the first sign. And the first test. Let's take a familiar scene. A coworker tells you how impressive your work is. They nod in meetings, clap at your successes, maybe even send a kind message after your recent achievement. But in subtle ways, they block your progress. They forget to pass along key information. They leave you out of important conversations. They smile and sabotage, and still they say, I support you. The Stoics would smile at that contradiction, not in mockery, but in recognition. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Actions are the evidence, and in time, they always reveal the truth. So the question becomes, are you paying attention? Not to the words, but to the patterns, to what happens when no one is watching, when nothing is at stake, when there's no benefit to helping or no penalty for walking away. That's when character shows. Here's a small but powerful exercise. Think of someone you've doubted, a friend, a partner, a colleague. Forget what they've said. Forget the apologies, the justifications, the praise. Just trace their actions. Were they there when it mattered? Did they show up when it was inconvenient? Did they keep their word when no one would know if they broke it? If the answer is yes, trust that. If the answer is no, trust that even more. Because jealousy often hides behind kindness. Deception wears the mask of politeness. And in a world where we've learned to say the right things, doing the right things has become rare. As Epictetus taught, we must become observers of life, not reactors. The goal isn't to confront or accuse, it's to quietly notice and then to choose wisely. So let people talk. You watch. You listen to the silence between their words. You follow the thread of their behavior, because that's where the truth lives. And the Stoics knew that's where your peace begins. Pay attention to how people celebrate your victories. That's where their truth hides. Unknown success is a mirror, not just for you, but for everyone around you. When you rise, when you evolve, when you start walking in your truth, something unexpected happens. You see who applauds and who flinches. And the reaction isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a delayed smile, a compliment that feels rehearsed, a celebration that feels oddly heavy, as if they're carrying something they're not saying. The Stoics would tell us this is one of life's most revealing moments, because the truth is, not everyone in your circle is in your corner. Some are just standing close enough to watch and hope. Epictetus once said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." And yet, opinions reveal a lot. When someone sees your growth as a threat, not as an inspiration, they expose the storm inside them. They might say congratulations, but what they mean is, why not me? They might post a message of support and then share a quiet rumor to undercut your shine. They might nod politely in front of you and roll their eyes the moment you leave the room. It hurts. Of course it does, because we want our joy to be shared, not resented. But this is where Stoic clarity becomes your strength. A sincere person, someone truly aligned with their own values, does not fear your progress. They celebrate it. They know that your light does not dim theirs, that your success is not a subtraction from their worth. So how do you recognize the difference? Watch their eyes when you speak of your wins. Feel their energy. Does it lift you or shrink you? Do they support you privately, not just publicly? And maybe most importantly, do they grow with you or slowly pull away the more you become yourself? Seneca wrote, "You want to be great? Then begin by being. Being present, being truthful, being someone who doesn't just smile at success, but rises with it." That's the kind of person you want beside you. And if your success reveals someone else's resentment, let it. It's better to know, because your life is too valuable, your journey too sacred, to be shared with those who resent your becoming. Celebrate anyway, grow anyway, shine anyway, and trust that those who truly belong in your life will never be threatened by your light. How someone treats the powerless says everything about their power. Unknown. It's easy to be kind when there's something to gain, when the cameras are on, when someone's watching, when the person in front of you holds influence, admiration, or opportunity. But what about when there's nothing to gain? What about the waiter who brings your food? The janitor who works after hours? The intern with no title, no authority, and nothing to offer except their presence? This is where character speaks. The Stoics believed in virtue as its own reward, that dignity, respect, and compassion should not be conditional, that we do not lower ourselves by raising others, especially those who seem to have no worldly value. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "A noble man compares and estimates himself by an idea which is higher than himself." That idea is the consistent practice of virtue. So what happens when someone's kindness disappears the moment the benefits do? What happens when a person showers praise on their boss but mocks the receptionist? When they're generous with praise in public but dismissive in private? When their smile fades as soon as there's no reward? That's not just inconsistency. That's revelation. Jealousy and deceit often thrive in these unseen spaces, because people who harbor them know how to perform. They know how to charm upward and look down on those they consider beneath them. But the Stoics would urge us to look carefully, because a person's true face isn't the one they wear for the powerful. It's the one they show when they think it doesn't matter. So watch for how they speak to someone who has nothing to offer, whether they maintain respect when no one's looking, if they show quiet cruelty when they believe it's safe. This isn't about judgment, it's about alignment. Because if someone only shows kindness when it serves them, their kindness isn't real. And if they treat the vulnerable with contempt, they will treat you with contempt the moment you become vulnerable too. The Stoics teach us that respect isn't a performance, it's a practice, one that starts not with titles, but with truth, not with power, but with presence. So ask yourself, how do you treat those who can't benefit you? Because in noticing that, you might not only see others more clearly, but also become the kind of person worth trusting, worth following, and worth being. Quiet strength begins with quiet respect, especially when no one's watching. Consistency is the true foundation of trust. Either keep your promises or do not make them. Roy T. Bennett. People show you who they are, but not always in a single moment and rarely in their words. They reveal themselves over time, in patterns, in the rhythm of their choices, in the way they show up or don't when no one is taking notes. This is where the Stoics place their focus, not on appearances, not on talk, but on alignment between what someone says and what they actually do. Epictetus once asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" He wasn't just talking about self-discipline. He was talking about the standards we set for ourselves and the people we allow close. A person who acts one way in public and another in private, who flatters you today and gossips about you tomorrow, is not inconsistent by accident. They're showing you the truth. Jealousy and deception often wear many faces. Friendly one moment, distant the next. Supportive in meetings, critical behind closed doors. Their inconsistency is not a flaw. It's a warning. So what do? We observe. We don't react to every shift. We don't chase clarity in chaos. We become still and watch the pattern unfold. Ask yourself, do their values shift based on who's watching? Do they change behavior when something is at stake? Are their promises steady or situational? Because someone who is sincere, who lives with inner calm and alignment, doesn't need to constantly adjust their face. They show up the same way, in pressure and peace, in front of strangers and behind the scenes. They are whole, not performed. Think about a time someone's inconsistency unsettled you. At first, you might have justified it. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it that way. It was just a one-time thing. But the Stoics would urge caution, not judgment, but clarity. A single lapse can be forgiven. A pattern should be understood, because inconsistency in others creates instability in us. And if you want to build a life of quiet strength and peace, it begins with surrounding yourself with people who are anchored. Not perfect, not polished, just real. And real people don't change with the wind. So don't just listen to what they say. Watch the thread, because over time, the thread reveals everything. Flattery is telling someone what they want to hear. Honesty is telling them what they need to hear. Unknown. There's a kind of praise that feeds your soul, and there's a kind that leaves you hollow. You know the difference, even if you can't always explain it. One feels grounded, real. The other floats like smoke, sweet but suffocating. The Stoics warned us about this, because in a world full of empty words, the most dangerous ones are the ones that sound like compliments. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The same is true with praise. Those who crave recognition, who chase attention, often surround themselves with voices that echo what they want to hear, but not what they need. And those who envy you, they know this. So they flatter you, lavishly, loudly, with praise that feels off. Why? Because flattery disarms you. It lowers your guard. It makes you feel seen, when in truth, it blinds you. A jealous or deceitful person may use excessive praise as a tactic to get close, to gain trust, to control the narrative. You're the best I've ever seen. No one does it like you. You're miles ahead of the rest. It sounds good, but ask yourself, is it true? Is it earned? Is it consistent with how they treat you in other moments? Because often, the same person who flatters you to your face criticizes you when you're not around. They inflate your ego when they need something, then slowly deflate your confidence when they don't. The Stoics remind us, our self-worth should not rise and fall on others' words. It should be rooted in our values, our effort, our quiet integrity. So the next time you receive a compliment that feels too polished, too sudden, too much, pause and ask, what's behind these words? Do their actions match this praise? Are they lifting me or leading me? True praise is quiet, measured, earned over time. It doesn't shout, it affirms. It doesn't flatter to manipulate, it reflects what's real. Be grateful for those who see your growth and celebrate it sincerely, not those who weaponize praise to control or deceive. Because flattery is not love, it's not support, it's camouflage. And the more you align with your values, the easier it becomes to see through the fog. So smile when they compliment you, but listen with your soul. It already knows the truth. If someone corrects you and you feel offended, then you have an ego problem. Numan Ali Khan. Criticism is a mirror. Not everyone likes what they see in it. But for the Stoics, feedback, even when harsh, was never the enemy. In fact, it was welcomed, because they knew something many of us still struggle with. Growth begins where ego ends. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." That's not just humility, that's power. Because when you are truly confident, when your identity is rooted in values, not validation, you don't fear correction, you invite it. Now think about someone you've seen react poorly to criticism, not just once, but as a pattern. The moment they're challenged, they tense up, their tone shifts, they lash out, defend, blame, or shut down. Maybe they even attack you back, not because you were wrong, but because they couldn't bear to be wrong. That's not strength, that's ego wearing armor. Jealous and deceitful people often see criticism as a threat, not a tool. Why? Because it exposes the very things they're trying to hide: insecurity, fear, a lack of control. So how do you recognize this trait in someone? Notice how they respond when someone offers gentle, honest feedback. Watch if they punish the messenger instead of reflecting on the message. Ask, do they grow from their mistakes or bury them deeper? The Stoic path is not about perfection. It's about willingness. Willingness to be wrong. Willingness to hear the uncomfortable truth. Willingness to let go of the image in pursuit of the real. In contrast, people who cannot handle criticism often seek praise excessively. They surround themselves with silence, not because they're at peace, but because they fear disruption. You'll often find that those who reject correction also reject responsibility. And when things go wrong, they don't look inward, they look for someone to blame. So be careful. Someone who can't be criticized can't be trusted, and someone who collapses at correction will never rise to honest connection. Ask yourself too, how do you respond to criticism? Because how you receive it says just as much as how others do. The Stoics believe that every critique, even if poorly delivered, contains a lesson. Even if the delivery is sharp, the question is there truth in it? If there is, embrace it. If not, discard it without bitterness. But always stay open, because the moment you stop defending is the moment you start evolving. Comparison is the thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt. Sometimes it doesn't sound like jealousy. It sounds like, that's great, but Sarah did it faster. You're doing well, though Mark already hit that milestone last year. You look good. Have you seen how fit Rachel is now? They don't call it envy. They call it feedback or motivation or just keeping it real. But deep down you feel it. Something's off. And if you've ever walked away from someone's compliment feeling worse, not better, you're not imagining things. The Stoics remind us, don't let others define your worth by comparison. Your journey is yours. When someone unconsciously or deliberately compares you to others, they reveal more than they intend. They reveal where their attention lives, and often where their jealousy hides. Because a person at peace doesn't need to pit people against each other. They don't need to rank, diminish, or measure someone's success by someone else's timeline. They celebrate growth, wherever it happens, however it looks. So when you notice repeated comparisons in your conversations, take a mental step back. Ask yourself, why did they say that? What did it add to me or to the moment? Was it meant to support or to stir doubt? Jealous individuals often disguise their discomfort through subtle comparisons. They downplay your progress. They highlight someone else's as a quiet challenge, as if your joy is only valid when it outruns someone else's. But Stoic wisdom offers a different truth. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." That learning isn't a race, it's a return to your own values, to your own pace, to your quiet confidence. So how can you protect your peace? Don't internalize comparisons. Recognize them and let them go. Don't feed them in return. Choose your words with care and kindness. And most of all, remember, you don't have to match anyone. You only have to align with yourself, because comparison is noise, but your path is music. Let others measure. You live. And if someone constantly compares, take note. It might not just be habit. It might be a sign of something deeper. Discomfort with your light, dressed up as concern. Stay steady. The Stoic doesn't chase validation or competition. They walk their path with calm, clear steps, and when they cheer for others, it's real. Do the same. A person's true nature is revealed not in how they succeed, but in how they fail. Unknown failure is a spotlight. It shines on the deepest parts of who we are, our pride, our fears, our character. The Stoics didn't run from failure. They didn't hide it, deny it, or disguise it. They faced it head on and asked, "What is this here to teach me?" Because they understood, failure isn't weakness, it's feedback, a mirror, an invitation to grow. But not everyone sees it that way. Some people panic when things go wrong. They scramble to shift the blame. They rewrite the story to protect their ego. And in doing so, they reveal their truest self. You've probably seen it. A colleague who makes a mistake, and suddenly it's everyone else's fault. The system, the timing. A friend who stumbles and turns defensive, distant, or even cruel. A leader who faces a setback and lashes out rather than listening. These aren't just reactions, they're signals. Because a jealous or deceitful person doesn't just fear failure, they fear being seen as imperfect, and that fear drives them to distort, deflect, and deceive. The Stoics offer us a better way. Epictetus taught, difficulties show what men are, not what they say, not what they pretend, but what they are. So how do we observe this in others? Watch how they respond when criticized during failure. Listen to the language they use. Is it ownership or blame? Do they grow from setbacks or bury them? Do they share what they learned or just share excuses? A person of quiet strength will stumble, yes, but they will also reflect. They will say, "This was mine," and then they'll work, slowly, steadily, to improve. That's trust. That's integrity. But someone who cannot admit fault will always struggle with truth. And where truth is absent, so is safety. Because if they can't own their own failure, they'll never support yours. They'll never sit with you in your mess because they're too busy hiding their own. So when someone fails, observe, not to judge, but to understand. Their reaction is not about the failure. It's about what the failure reveals. And in that clarity, you get to choose. Who do you want near you when things get hard? Who do you trust to stay honest when their ego is on the line? Be that person. Own your mistakes. Learn loudly. Let your failures teach you more than your victories ever could. Because a Stoic doesn't fear falling. They only fear refusing to rise. Your intuition knows what your head hasn't figured out yet. Anonymous. Sometimes it whispers. A quiet unease. A tension in your chest when someone enters the room. A flicker of doubt, even as they smile. They haven't said anything wrong. They haven't done anything, not really. And yet, something feels off. That's your inner voice speaking. The Stoics believed in logic and reason and clarity of thought, but they also knew your instincts are not random. They are born from patterns you've lived, lessons you've buried, and truths you can't always explain. Marcus Aurelius called it the guiding mind, a quiet force that helps you stay aligned when the world tries to pull you off course. And when it comes to jealousy and deception, that voice is often the first to sense what your eyes haven't yet seen. Think of a time you felt uncomfortable around someone who seemed perfectly nice. You couldn't pinpoint why. They said the right things. They were helpful, charming even, but still, you didn't feel safe. You may have brushed it off, told yourself you were overthinking, but later when their mask slipped, when the truth came out, you realized your instincts were right. That's not magic. That's awareness. The Stoics teach us to honor both logic and instinct, to let our reason guide our actions, but to let our intuition raise the questions worth asking. So how can you tell when your inner voice is speaking? You feel drained after interactions, even if they seem positive. You notice small contradictions in someone's words and actions. You catch yourself replaying their behavior in your mind, not to judge, but to understand. You feel pressure to perform or please, rather than just be equal. These are not signs of weakness. They're signals of something deeper. A misalignment, a quiet warning. The Stoic path is not about suspicion. It's about presence. It's about learning to trust yourself, not because you're flawless, but because you are awake. And here's the truth. If someone's energy makes you feel small, confused, or guarded, Even without clear evidence, listen, ask questions, take space. Don't rush to label, but don't rush to dismiss either. You owe yourself that honesty. Because in a world of noise and performance, your inner voice is one of the few things that still speaks from truth. So protect it, respect it, trust it. And when you harmonize your instinct with your reason, when you learn to feel and to think, that's when you become unshakable. A Stoic not only sees the world clearly, they listen deeply to themselves. And in that quiet, they find their strength.